This is a Renew Studios Network podcast. Faithful, uplifting, family-focused.
ABC Wednesdays, Shifting Gears is back.
He has arisen.
Tim Allen and Kat Dennings return in television's #1 new comedy.
What?
With a star-studded premiere including Jenna Elfman, Nancy Travis, and
Hey, buddy.
a big home improvement reunion.
Welcome.
Oh, boy.
That guy's a tool.
Shifting Gears, new Wednesdays, 8, 7 Central on ABC and stream on Hulu.
This is a Rogue Media Network podcast.
All right. Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Relationships and Reason. Welcome. Hey, I feel like we've been having some really, really good conversations, some really good guests. I mean, all our guests are great. And all our conversations are awesome.
Actually, I went back and listened to some of them, and I'm like, wow, this is actually, I said to myself, we have a really good podcast.
A really good podcast. So,
Not to brag on ourselves, but toot.
Please share that with some friends and some folks. And if you are someone that's looking to partner with us, reach out so that we can collaborate and have some more real, intentional conversations about what's important here in this life. What are we talking about today, hun?
Today, we are talking about countercultural choices. Countercultural choices. Leading your family with courage.
Courageously?
When you have to go against what culture says. You know, sometimes the hardest decision that we make is for our family, right? And sometimes there's one that people don't understand.
Yeah.
And you have to make a decision that's best for your family. Maybe it could be like stepping away from a job, right? People don't understand, or moving to a new city, and why would you do that, right? Or saying no to the constant grind. Everyone else the constant grind that everyone else seems to be glorifying, right? Culture tells us one thing, but conviction often tells us another.
Yeah.
So in today's episode, we're diving into what it looks like to make countercultural choices that protect, strengthen, and bless our family, even when the world doesn't clap for you.
Yeah.
I love that. The world doesn't clap for you.
Even when the world doesn't clap for you. And you even just introducing this, it makes me think about what gives us perspective in order to think about what is culturally relevant and, and the clash against culture in itself, right? Because you have to have some sort of perspective to think differently in order to make those decisions, right? You don't just wake up one day and say, oh, I'm going to just go this direction, even though everyone is doing this thing. This is what I know how to do. This is how we do things. I'm not just going to get up one day and just turn to the side or turn that way because I, just naturally. And so I feel like a lot of times, or truly, it's about some type of perspective, whether that's a spiritual sort of perspective, right, when you were building a relationship with Christ, or you are traveling, right? We talk about that all the time. We are, you and I are immigrants. We come from a different country and are rooted here in the U.S. And so, but because we have this different perspective coming from, the Caribbean, we can sort of ask these questions regular to ourselves, like, oh, what is this supposed to look like versus, where I'm from, or vice versa.
Yeah, I love that. I love that you said that, you don't just wake up one day and be like, yeah, this is what I'm going to do, because that would be a disruption, right?
Yeah.
That will cause a lot of disruption if you have a family and you guys are in a rhythm, and then you wake up one day and you're like, we're doing this instead, and everybody's like, wait, what? What's happening? So that in itself can be a huge disruption to the family rhythm and the life of that. So I feel like whenever you're making changes or planning for these things, it's a process, right? To get to the next level. For anything that you're going through, you got to think about, like, I know for me, whenever I make big decisions, I'm thinking about what is it going to look like for me in the next 3 to 5 years, So for me, personally, I stepped away from coaching on my alma mater, a few months ago. And one of my decisions point for doing that was that same question. What does my life look like in 3 to 5 years?
Yeah.
We have 2 young children, and who would I have invested in the next 3 to 5 years?
Yeah.
Right. So those are the kind of questions that I was contemplating as I took the year or so to think through what would be best, not just for me, right? Yeah. But and if I'm by myself, this is a whole different this is a whole different ballgame. This is a whole different conversations. But because I am a mom and a wife, and it's just a matter of like, okay, life is not just about me anymore, right? So we to go a little bit back, whenever it comes to like decisions, I'm going to be in counterculture. Sometimes the things that we go after are the things that we actually really want, right? For our own selves. It's like the dreams that we've had since we were a kid, right? This is my dream, and it's not something that the culture tell you to have. It's just your dream. And the culture there's a culture within that dream, right? But at the end of the day,
I mean, like with college basketball and overall, like that is the hot thing, right?
Yes.
College athletics, so many people. There's a culture there.
Yeah.
There's a subculture.
Yeah. So it's like, what do you have to do in order to be really good in this culture? In order for you to get better. And one of the biggest things is the sacrifices that you have to make.
Right.
The long days, right, and the travel and all those things. And it's like, what's going to have to give, right? And one of those things that gives is the time with the people that you care about, right? So, and it's not like college athletics is a bad thing, right? It's a great career. I absolutely enjoy it. I love coaching, but at the end of the day, in 5 years, who would I have developed? And so there are times in me when I felt like, oh my gosh, did I make the right decision?
Sure.
Because no one's clapping.
Come on.
Because no one's clapping for me, and it's not like you're seeing the result of you working with your kids right now, right? And those things you're not going to see for the next maybe 10, 15 years, but we know consciously and subconsciously that the result is taken, like the actions are going to lead to a positive result.
Right, because it's about time. And you are you're allocating your time from one place to the next, right? And we know that there's fruit in that. Whether it's like if you're spending time with your kids or spending time, in that career, something is getting poured into.
Yeah.
Very interesting. I love that you shared that and talked about that subculture. And it made me think about, too, just like overall. I mean, because there's influence in, I was thinking about how do we begin to even think about how to shift perspective or think differently. And I mentioned this a few episodes ago where, a few decades ago, when you asked a child what do they want to be when they grew up, there were a lot of astronauts, right? And a part of that was because the culture was showing, especially in media, the aspirations and the highlights and the opportunity to be in space and to do these things, right? There was a huge push around that.
Yeah.
And so that shaped a lot of perspectives. I think about, there's one of my favorite books, I think is Talent Code. And it talked about how, especially in like Brazil, you have individuals that, and I think even Korea, where you started to see individuals that looked like them started to win in major sports, and it would basically transform the youth into these star athletes, because now they saw something and they were aspiring to be that. And so I think about all the things that, whether we're recognizing it or not, there are a bunch of things, especially media, that is influencing us and helping us to make decisions on a daily basis. And without sort of having an opportunity to reflect or to connect with someone else to see, hey, that's something that you're doing, but why are you doing it?
Right.
Yeah.
I love that. I think that, media even being in the Christian realm, where you have this idea, it could be a subconscious idea that you're trying to live up to, or an idea that is spoken to you, literally to your face, that you're trying to live up to. But obviously, we live in a culture now today where you're chasing after the money, the stats, the social media following, the own your own business, because you got to be able to do whatever you want, whenever you want, however you want, right? And going back to the Christian perspective, like you think about like the Proverbs 31 woman, right? And this woman seems to have everything all together at all times. And so that in itself can be like, wait, am I supposed to be like that? Like, do I have to own my own business? Do I have to take care of all these different people? Do I have to like run the show all the time? Do I always have to be on all the time? Like, who is, like, I'm the one taking care of people all the time, but not necessarily somebody taking care of, this person. So you have this idea that's in your mind that's what you're supposed to be.
Sure.
Even from the word, right? But that's why the Bible says have the older people teach the younger people, right? So that way you can have a better understanding of like, what does this truly mean? How do I balance?
That's really good. Like you pointed that out, and just like having the older people teach the younger people, but not just like teach the younger people your ways.
Right.
It's teaching the younger people, like helping them to kind of find that guidance to where they actually need to be. Not saying, hey, you need to be this, but like, where do you need to be, right?
Yes.
And having that relationship in order to be able to build that.
Yeah, because I feel like, the culture, the world, even the word, we can misinterpret, like we can think that the Bible says one thing, but it means something else. And sometimes when we take those false interpretation and put them on our own self, then we can be trying to live up to a standard that's not even possible or can be achieved. And so then somebody older who has walked through a life that's very similar to you, and they're like, hey, this is probably not this is not what that actually meant.
Yeah.
Here's how you can balance your household. Sure. One of the advice that my sister gave me whenever we just had kids, and my sister had a son who is maybe 2 or 3 years older than our children. But she was like, whenever the babies come, don't try so much to just kind of worry about keeping the house clean all the time, because that's kind of how our culture is when we grow up. It's like things have to be put away. So to me, I mean, it's such a simple word of advice and instruction from my sister, but it took so much pressure off of me, because my life was I didn't know what my life was going to be like in terms of like having a clean house all the time. But when the kids got a little bit older, where they were like messing stuff up, like I just remember my sister's advice, to where I'm just like, man, I have so much going on, I can't pick up something all the time. But that's simple advice, and it's like, having a clean house, that's not a bad thing, right? It's not a bad thing. It's actually a good thing. That's what you're, quote unquote, supposed to do. Yeah. But when in the season of life that I was in, that wasn't something that I should be stressing about. Sure. So because my sister gave me that advice, it just took so much stress off of me to realize, like, hey, I just want to enjoy my kids right now. My house may be a little bit messy, but I'm making sure that I'm present for my children. Very good. So even though like things may be said in a way, when somebody else who have gone through it comes to you and say, hey, this is how you can navigate this. It just makes life a little bit easier.
Yeah, I like that a lot.
Handle.
Yeah, I like that a lot. I mean, just think about, again, when we are trying to move one way, or we believe that we should be doing things a certain way just because that's how we see or what we watch on TV and all of that, and then having that person, that mentorship or that support, that relationship that can help you to see a different perspective, that can allow you to think differently.
Yeah. So what does like the pressure of success, do for you in terms of like how you want to handle your life or marriage, being a dad, You know, like where do you feel like you have to live up to a certain standard in order to be a quote unquote good person or a good dad or?
Yeah, that is a good question. So you know my kind of social media stance. I try not to get anything really, or try to put too much emphasis on there and trying to get advice and other people kind of pouring into my direction. But there is obviously, you know, you grow up and you think about obviously being the man of the house or being, you know, a champion for your family and all of those things. And so, yes, there is that that thought process of making sure that I can provide and all of these things. But it has, I feel like, it's more nuanced, right, than you realize when you get into this, because there are times where, you know, as we were growing up and trying to grow businesses and stuff like that, where, man, I was like, okay, I'm not the one like providing for my family right now, right? You know, there's literally, especially when you talk about like in comparison, like when we just got married, like, right, you were playing in the WNBA, right? And I am a youth director, right? I'm a director for a nonprofit organization. But I think stuff like that can, you know, because of society, it can like trigger you. And I've seen like dudes like get crazy because their wives are making more than them, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And just get caught up in into some of these fits and into conflicts with their relationship that has been crazy. And so I have to like pay attention to those things, right? And understand what that looks like for my family. What does being a provider look like for my family? What does being a champion look like for my family? Because I do want to do those things. I want to support, but understanding what that means and not trying to get this definition from the world, but again, having that relationship with God, having that relationship with you and seeing what that looks like. So it's different. I don't know if I answered that, you know, but I do believe there's especially when you think about like success, right? Success as far as like businesses. For me, I have a specific standard. I know where I want to be, but what I've realized in growing businesses, it never goes according to plan, you know? And so I keep having to, what I've realized is I keep having to, you know, make iterations when I need to. But my core thing that I've learned in that is like not giving up. And what I've seen from the very best like entrepreneurs is they've reassured me in that, like, hey man, yeah, keep going, or you haven't gone far enough yet, you know? And so whatever your business is going to be, it's going to get there, and it's not going to look like what you usually start off with. But as far as like success, you know, don't let what people are pushing out there define you, right? Yeah. You see stuff like, you know, people raising millions of dollars for their trinkets or their ideas, their widgets, you know what I mean? And you say, oh, we're trying to do this, but we're not, you know?
Yeah.
And so that is always out there, but I try to keep this kind of tunnel vision, I guess, in a sense where the success is not defined by what other people are doing, but what kind of impact are we actually making?
Yeah, I love that. That's really good. And I feel like like even if you're not on social media, there's so many distractions of ways that people can tell us what we need to be doing, right? Or what does success look like. You know, you go to the grocery store and at the checkout line, there's all these magazines with, you know, like people who are losing weight, they're super fit, they are married to the richest person, they have billionaires, and you know, it's just all
person of the year, you see all the
things, and don't talk about watching even a basketball game and the commercials between the games and all the things that is like, oh man, like what am I doing with my life? You know, should I be doing something else? And so if you don't have that ton of vision, like you're saying, to be focused on what it is that you're doing in the moment and with your family, that can cause some ruckus with the world, right? In terms of where people don't where people may criticize you or don't understand what you're doing, you know. But if you are a tunnel vision to know that, hey, I want to be the best that I can be, and understanding the success within that, right? I think of when we think of success, the biggest thing that comes to mind is how much money you have, right? But we know from many examples of people who have had a successful business but don't have a relationship with their kids.
Man.
You know,
it's like, and it's one of those things where it's all the time you hear.
Yeah.
You hear it all the time, and you wonder like, when are we gonna get it? Like, when are we gonna understand? Where people are saying, "Oh yeah, you know, we're going 100 miles per hour, building these things, and at the end of the time, you're on your deathbed, and what you realize is, I should have
spent more time with my family."
I don't know how many times we hear that story, but again, it is what is shown.
Yeah, it's what's pushed to us. It's what's pushed to us right now. When you're young, you got to be building. You got to be going out there, and you got to take the world by storm, right? You got to try to conquer as much as you can. But we miss out on these, valuable people that's in our lives, and we don't realize them until maybe it's too late, or until we're in a bind, right? And you just like, oh man, where's my friend? I don't have a friend. Oh, I'm very successful and I don't have anybody to share it with. I think Mali Music has a song like that talks about like success. You can feel all alone at the top, and remember that you need people, right? Because at the end of the day, like you can get promoted as to the highest heights, but if you don't have someone to even say, "Hey, great job," whether that's a best friend or a spouse or a family member, just where that they are super proud of you and they are in your corner, that can feel a little bit lonely. Right. But in order to have that, you had to have invested the time with them to where that this is a successful relationship. I'm not just trying to be successful in the corporate world or in whatever culture that I'm in, but making sure that my success is valuable with people. Yeah. Because we know the importance of just being together and nourishing and nurturing the relationships that we have. And those are the ones that don't get applauded. Yeah. The only things that most of the time, the things that get applauded the most is the promotion, is you just got hired here, but nobody's really applauding I decided to stay at home with my kids. And that, for me, is success in 5 years. Yeah. That for me is success in 10 years. Yeah. Whenever I have this really, enjoyable relationship with my daughter. And it's not like, oh, well, you're never going to work again. But being able to know, like, hey, this is a sacrifice that it doesn't necessarily, like, feel great because of, you're not in the spotlight anymore, right? But just being mindful that the culture can make you think that what you're doing, especially the good things that you're doing, is not right. Right. It makes sense? Yeah. And I think that's where we get caught up. Like, oh man, I should be out here, like, doing all this extra stuff, because look at all the people who are raising the funds, and they're getting all these, like, crowdfunding and all these different things. And again, those things are not bad, right? Those things are not bad. And in order for you to grow your business, you need those things. But being mindful, like, when you look at your life in 5 years, what is it that you want to do? What is it that you would have want to build on? Yeah, I mean, I feel like even more specific, like, what is it that you want to be defined as? What do you want your impact to be defined as? Do you even care about impact, right? Have you even started having that conversation? Is it just about you? Right? Because if you're in the space too where it's just about you right now, that's the first step,
right? Because if we're thinking just about what we're capable of, what we want to do, there's, again, tons of people that have gone down that road and saying, hey, it's not worth it, right? While you were talking, the scripture kept coming up in my mind, and I'm forgetting a lot of it. But the one that talks about, if you do this and do that, but you don't have love, right? You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, like when it's talk about in 1 Corinthians 13, like you can brag about prophecies and something else. Yeah. But if you don't have love, it doesn't matter.
You're like a symbol or clangs, right?
Yeah.
And so it's just, there's all of these things that you can be doing, and I feel like a lot of times it goes back to those relationships and that impact. And relationships takes more than one person, mostly, right? One, you have to have that relationship with yourself, and then with Christ. But I believe also outside of yourself, that's where that's where we're seeing, that's where I'm seeing where there's true joy and fulfillment, when it's not just about you and the direction that you're going.
Yeah, and I think when you talk about if it's just about you, and I think when you're like the college age, life is literally all about you at the moment, right? You think about yourself in so many ways. And so you don't necessarily like think about the future to plan for your future, but it's actually one of the best times to plan for your future when you think about it. And even if you think of like college athletes and getting paid right now, and think about, hey, if I invest some of this money, what does my future look like, rather than spending it right then, right? But thinking about what life could be like for me if I start investing in the people that are around, right? And not just kind of thinking about yourself, even if it's a selfish stage of life,
right?
Because that I feel like that age, you just really focus on yourself a lot of the times. But you can focus on yourself, but think about your future. So I think that's a really good way to wrap this up.
Really cool. Hey, there's so much that I think we can dive into with this, right? So many different avenues that we can go down the road with. And we want to, again, hear from you. Please leave a comment. Let us know what you're thinking about what are some of the courageous, I guess, decisions you're having to make, personally, in order to support your family, to support your growth, and build those relationships that don't come easy, right? It's going against the grain. We want to hear from you. Again, thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of Relationships and Reason. And as always, we're truly grateful for y'all.
Yeah, and the last thing I was going to say is that, your family is like your first ministry. When you think about it, it's the first legacy that you're going to leave behind, right? And if we are chasing the culture, to live up to the culture changes. Because what may be a hot thing today is not necessarily jeans. It's not going to be popular in in another year or two, and you're going to be like, oh my gosh, I put so much into that, and then now look. But just being mindful that the decision that you make and the decision that you make with convictions to stay focused on the things that you are called to do is literally going to shape and impact your next generation. So
I love it. So good. Again, y'all, thank you so much for tuning in. We are looking forward to the next episode. All right, later.
This has been a Rogue Media Network production.